Hey guys, welcome to another exciting video interview with the Content Design Club at VCU. Today we have a very special guest with us. Alejandro Rodriguez from 343 Industries is talking to us today. He is not an artist at the studio, but he is a recruiter. And he is the one actually in charge of looking at people and applicants, going to the studio and seeing if they're qualified enough and actually giving them the job. This is going to be a very, very good interview for people to see what not only hard skills but soft skills they need to develop and any other job getting tips they can get. So Alejandro, thank you so much again for agreeing to do this.
Right on. Thank you for having me.
All right, and so the first question I have for today is give us a brief introduction. What can you tell us about yourself, your position, and the studio you work at?
Cool. So my name is Alejandro, of course. I started as an artist and I actually went to an art institute. While my time there, I specialized in character art, and my hope was to eventually land a job in one of the AAA studios. Right, my favorite aesthetic is mostly the sci-fi futuristic stuff. So Halo, it was kind of like my heart, right? And along the way, I thought to be all Machiavellian and all scheming and be like, hey, what if I become an intern at a recruiting agency that I can hire the person who's going to hire me, right? Um, Turns out that recruitment really fulfilled the things I was looking for in life, right? Personally, I'm really into philosophy, and being able to build a team, being able to make someone's life better, and not only their life, but that also the team's life better, is really fulfilling to me. And so that became my life. It is a great benefit to me that I have the hard skills as an artist, but also as a game developer.
Mm-hmm.
That way, I am much more able to dive deeper into what I'm looking for and also become a better asset to my team, right?
Mm.
Now, that is like kind of an intro on me. On my studio, we are 343, right? We make a popular game by the name of Halo. We are ramping up for Halo Infinite, which we are incredibly excited about. We had definitely there's a lot of stuff I cannot share because of NDA, but overall, our studio is very excited about this new project. We really do think it's gonna be our crowning achievement, and we are very excited, especially because of the people we have internally. We have people. If you care about art, we have Sparth in there. We have Darren. We have so many amazing concept artists and 3D artists there that really all inspire us to be better, right? Also in animators as well. Can't forget them. um, but overall, we have just an amazing team. I think we have the best team we have ever had, and we know what we want, and we know that we're gonna get it.
I can't wait for the release of the game. A lot of news and hype is building up for it, so I know I'm definitely gonna be playing it when it comes out. And it is really interesting that you started off as an artist first and then stayed in the path of being a recruiter. And it helps us out definitely because you can obviously understand our struggle still being in art school and the stress and the fears we have applying to studios such as yours.
Hmm. Definitely, that's my kind of my entire point is put myself in your shoes.
Yeah.
Cool.
That brings me to the first question, which is what would be some of the top things you recommend that students currently focus on if they want a to land a job in the AAA studios?
Absolutely. So you should definitely focus yourself, your art, and your path towards the studios that you want to go for, and also to the aesthetic that you want to go to, right?
Hmm.
Now I need to clarify a little bit more. These questions are for art-related people, or these questions are for pretty much the entirety of anybody applying for studios like mine.
They are for art related.
Okay, perfect. My favorite because that's not excellent. So yeah, definitely tailor your portfolio to the style of the studio you're going for.
Hmm.
Definitely, I understand with other sectors like film, right? You need to definitely be more varied. But with us, it's very specific, right? You are starting to see in this industry less and less art tests being given, meaning that the hiring managers or the art directors need to see your work be able to be somewhat transferable to their games, right?
Right.
Another thing to really keep in mind is that honestly, these art directors don't know you the way that you know yourself or for your friends know you, right? And so you need to be able to meet specific criteria in order for them to say, okay, this person's someone we can talk to, right? And this criteria is as follows, right? First, you need to be able to follow concept, right? Um, and you need to be able to show your technical proficiency as someone that can, especially at an entry level, that someone that can say, okay, here, I'm going to give this person a concept, and then I'm going to trust this person to carry out this concept to 3D. That's the first thing. The second thing you need to show is your ability to work off concept, meaning that, let's say you get a concept. A big example when I was reading it, right? Where you get a concept that's only the front of a character. You need to design the back, right? And you need to be able to understand what the concept artist was talking about, what the storyline, what the story the character is telling, and be able to understand the shape language and the silhouette well enough to continue that flow all the way to the back, right? That is incredibly important. That's really that skill is what really separates the normal artist from the best, and the ones that the hiring managers really care about. Because then we can definitely trust you to say, okay, this person is someone we can work with and someone we can trust in building up and being more of a hands-off, that way I can spend more time in hiring more people or spending more time in developing the process that we need to develop to make this game happen.
Makes sense. And what would you say would be the top things to have for those looking for more of a concept art position? Because it sounds to me that's the criteria for someone applying to be more of a 3D character artist. But what about people within the 2D art realm?
Correct, right? And definitely need to go more into the environment as well, too, right? In the concept art world, it's more about being able to, I'm going to put this best, to be able to have a language or a filter that is able to be translated into visual results to solve problems. Let me go into that, right? So one of the things that we hope people understand is that you as an artist, you're not good because your visual style is exciting or is fancy, right? That is great and that really matters. But what makes you amazing is your ability to take in information and translate that information to solve visual problems. So I don't know if you ever seen Feng Zhu's videos on design, or actually his design cinema, right? And he actually did a really, really awesome series on designing a world for Old Man's War, a book, right? And what he did was he started gathering information about the book itself, about the world, right? And about how that world would look if that was actually our reality in the next 100 years, right? Or so on. And so he started building up the functionality of that world. He started building up how the visual language and the visual storytelling that it's going to be within that world, right?
Right.
And so that is something that you need to be able to be used to, right? And that kind of exercise actually will be really, really helpful to you as a concept artist to go on, right? Take things and put them through your filter, right? I don't know if you ever seen I don't know if you've ever seen those really cool exercises where somebody says, okay, what if Game of Thrones was set in the Legend of Zelda series?
Yeah.
Right? And then somebody did a bunch of sketches. Okay, this will be Link, or sorry, this will be Jon Snow, and this will be then Daenerys Targaryen, right, in the Link universe, right? That in itself is an essential part of the concepting kind of path. And so if you're able to demonstrate visual, kind of you breaking down visual problems and being able to demonstrate that in your portfolio, that is amazing, right? A lot of times what will happen from our art director will come at you and tell you, hey, we have this frost axe that we got to make, right? So it has to tell a specific story, right? So here's the story. So the character had their family die and they put their souls in this axe. And because there are some like Valhallan people, it became frosted, right? I'm pretty much probably telling you God of War right now. But okay, so then you say, okay, and this axe will be wielded by the last daughter of this family, right? Go, right? So it's up to you to develop, okay, how's this act going to look? What kind of little things you will use to demonstrate the story, right? Of like, okay, this axe was owned originally by the mother or by the father, right? So what scratches do they have because of that, right? Do they have any like inscriptions saying, "Oh, I love you, my last daughter, because this is my axe I'm leaving you," or kind of deal, right?
Hmm.
And so being able to demonstrate that in your portfolio, being able to demonstrate that thought process in your portfolio is really, really good. Also, please be technically proficient in what you do, as in like have a technically proficient, as like have a nice be able to render your work well, right?
Right.
That is, and I'm guess that's the step where you most are at now. But it's really important for you to build up in the background those storytelling skills.
Storytelling skills. Would you classify that as higher or lower than technical skills?
That is a great question. Um, there are several schools of thought, and so I'm not going to be able to give you a definitive answer to this one.
Hmm.
My opinion is that it's more important to tell a story than just to be able to tell it well. As in, sorry, not tell it well, but render it well,
Hmm.
right? I'm not always on the lookout for the Ron Jazz out there. I mean, although Ron Jazz kind of works for me already, but I'm not always looking out for like the Kekai, right? I'm looking out for someone that is able to tell an amazing story through their thoughts, right, and be able to at least represent that well in their art, right? That's really what matters, right? So a person that's able to come in and contribute to the team and be a really positive force to the development process
Hmm.
of visual development process, that is a that is more important for me than someone that is able to illustrate like let's say like the best you can ever imagine, right?
Right. Okay. That makes lots of sense. And within that skill set that a 2D concept artist should have, 3D is always a big thing that a lot of us think about
Mm-hmm.
because it seems to be in every job description, and a lot of people are recommending that 2D concept artists have experience with 3D programs. How essential is that experience, and to what degree should they be experienced in?
So honestly, also because my studio is a very sci-fi, hard sci-fi set,
Hmm.
I am a big fan of this, right? And also as an artist on my own time, I am also a big fan of this, right? Why? Because 3D allows you to have better form and better understanding of shape, right? Also, as a concept artist working with 3D artists, you're able to share your information, or you're able to understand what they're going to be translating better,
Hmm.
right? So understanding 3D is an amazing thing. For example, if you're an environment artist, right? Sorry, if you're working as a concept environment artist, right?
Right.
Because then you're able to lay out your entire world with very little effort, and then from there build up on those shapes, right? Set down lighting information, set down all these things, make your work much more solid, and be able to finish in a much more efficient time.
I see.
Also, just in case we don't get to touch upon this debate and this topic,
Hmm.
it's it's not so important that you finish work really quickly.
Hmm.
It's that you spend very devoted time on your work and do it well. So to reiterate upon that point is that what I hope to see in people in artists, right, is that their work is deliberate, that they have an idea of what they're going for, what their end goal looks like, and then for them just to act upon it. And and not just to like, oh, I'm gonna finish this thing a speed painting in 2 hours, right? No. Like, does this tell a story, right? Does this tell the the visual story that I'm hoping to see?
Right. Okay. Really good answers. And so, with that, and going back to the 3D aspect, it should be something that helps the artist's workflow in order to become faster, like in order to help the good set of rendering or storytelling skills that they already have. Correct?
I'm sorry, please repeat that.
Oh, yeah. So to reiterate on what you said about 2D artists having 3D skills, it should just be something that helps their workflow become faster and better give them better understanding of what they're doing. It's not something too essential that they should harp on, right? Like they're not really going to be competing against actual 3D character artists or 3D artists.
Yes, well put, right? I understand what you're meaning now because I'm not actually in your shoes, right? So I see things from a different perspective. So now seeing it from your perspective, yes, that is true, right? You don't have to have 3D, but it is a very good positive, right? Because it helps you sync up with the teams better. And that in itself is something that I look for.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Good to note. And going with that, I asked you what were some of the traits and features that are essential. We answered a lot of the hard skill questions, but what about soft skills? What do you look for outside of a person's portfolio in terms of if they're well suited for the company?
Absolutely. So being able to communicate your thought process clearly is super important. And don't feel afraid of this. This is something that comes with time. This is something that comes with you being able to break down how you got from point A to point B in your own work and and it's a practice skill, right?
Right.
And so why does this matter to me? Because when we're working in the development process, right, the art director is going to come up to you and say, hey, cool, this Frost Axe, right, has all these nice ideas, but these things, I'm going to go back to Frost Axe, but you're not hitting the point on these things, right? Can you and I work together to develop these ideas? Understand that the art director doesn't have all the answers. Neither do you. Neither does anybody else in the team.
Right.
And so it's more about being able to almost think like an art director and say, okay, how are we going to be able to tell a story? How are we going to be able to stay on the visual target, right? And maintain a quality that is standard across our entire games.
Right. Makes sense.
Does that make sense to you?
Totally.
Also, on that point, right, is that being able to work with others, right? If I can share a little bit myself, I am very, very not a type A person. I'm definitely a type B person, right? Where I'm much more internal. And I'm a recruiter, right? And so it's more about being able to develop the language and the understanding of how to work with others and how to be able to uplift them and how to be able to build up a team or a project. That way that you get to a point where you're succeeding as a group and not just trying to do your own work.
Makes sense.
So being able to work with others and being able to have honest and clear critique upon their work is very important. It's a skill that you should definitely build upon.
Okay. So communication skills and, well, yeah, both are essentially communication skills, but in two different spectrums, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And also personality as well. Nobody wants to work with a jerk.
Correct. Also, to go off a little bit on that is, I don't know if any of you know this popular term called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where when you're so early in your career where you think you know everything, right? That in itself is a trap, because especially when you're getting feedback from someone, right? It is your job to just take it and build off of it, and normally take in their point of view, right? And so definitely be able to self-assess where you are and what you're doing, and always take somebody else's feedback with respect, and then from there on your own time build upon it and put in your own opinions.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that information. And now, piggybacking off of the first question, I asked and the previous questions as well, I asked what were some of the things you recommend you students have. Now, what are some things that you might have seen in the past when interviewing people or when recruiting people that you recommend students do not do? What are some of the don'ts?
Definitely, I will hope for you to have researched the studio you're going for. I definitely hope that you have made up an idea of how to properly kind of present yourself to that studio in the sense of, okay, what work I'm representing, what jobs I'm going to be applying to, right? So because what really hurts is that when somebody comes up to me and says, I want to be a senior artist, right? And I want to be, especially I want to be a senior environment artist, and then I look at their portfolio, it's all character, it's all 2D work.
Mm-hmm.
There's no connection there. There's no ability for us to come back and say, okay, you're not really thinking about what you're doing with us, right?
Right.
Also, one thing that I definitely want to get at, and more deeply to your point, is I really wish that that people who would apply, that they would understand that that it's a two-way street,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's more about you being able to have a conversation with me and understanding that you're looking at my studio as a place that you want to invest yourself. Yeah, so being able to speak with someone from a company, from the perspective that you're also looking at them as someone who is judging them as a place for you to be able to be employed there,
Mm-hmm.
and not just a supplicant to try to get a job there,
Right.
right? And we can definitely go deeper into all these points, right? But definitely, my hope is for you to be a respectful person who has done their homework and who is able to speak clearly and directly to the things that make them a match to that role, and that way we can build off of that.
Okay. Going off of that, I remember you mentioned it's not good to apply to an environment art position if your portfolio is nothing but character art.
Yep.
Speaking of those two job titles, which are more, which field seems to be more available? Because we often hear that artists wanting to get 2D concept art positions should focus more on environments because there seems to be more work to be done there. But there's a lot of people who want to be concept artists, both in the 2D and 3D space. Do you have any thoughts or things you can share about that?
Whenever someone asks me that question, an old saying from my dad comes up in my mind, which is someone will always pay you a little bit more to do the thing you do not want to do.
Hmm.
Meaning that if you want to be an environment artist, you devote yourself to the craft. You devote yourself to that dream,
Mm-hmm.
and you become the best person you can be at that, right?
Right.
Be whatever you want to be, just be the best at it.
Right.
And that really is the motto for an entire industry, right? We pick specialists, right? For example, you want to be a material artist, or you want to be a texture artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So cool, right? You will need to be proficient in environment work. You need to be proficient in how to build those solid rigs, or those solid meshes, right?
Right.
But also you need to be an exceptional expert in one thing. And this time, cool. So yeah, you don't need to be an expert in one field, in one specific specialty of that field,
Mm-hmm.
but be proficient in all others,
Got it.
right? And so, yeah, I understand that in your minds, right? You need to get a job, and your goal is you gotta get that full time. You gotta get that job, right? You gotta get that foot in the door, right? But at the same time, if you do somehow achieve that, right, and then you become known for that,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for you? That you're stuck doing that, and you going being able to go back and to do something else is, I would say, very very hard, almost as hard as starting from all over again.
Makes sense. Yeah, that reminds me of some of the advice we've gotten in the past from previous interviews where you do want to go into what you want to do, and there is that route of taking the job that's not really what you want to do, but unless you want to suffer a huge pay cut and have to start climbing the mountain over again, it's best to just gun for what you want, but be smart about it. And going off of that, how exactly do you recommend students finding a job in that in the fields? Because that seems to be the biggest worry on all of our mindsets is actually acquiring and finding the jobs.
That is an excellent question. I'm really glad you asked that question. So understand that art is a marathon, not a sprint, right? If you put deadlines upon yourself that I need to get a job by X date, if not I'm going to lose my money, if not I'm not going to be good enough, that you will have a bad day. That is the recipe for failure. What you really should do is allow yourself to play the long game, right? If you need to take jobs, do it. If you need to take freelance, do it. If you need to take crappy jobs that you thought that you were not good, in order to keep yourself going for that month and until you find something else, you do that. right? Um, so before I lose my train of thought, which is, so what it is that you need to, oh man, I totally lost my train of thought on that one. I'm sorry, can you please ask the question again?
Okay, I asked what do you recommend students to do in order to find the positions, because it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
big worry of ours. And then you said that art is a marathon.
correct, right? So all the things I said, and now this, which is I would recommend for you to continue building your portfolio and to reach out to the people within the studio that you like to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, 343, right? Reach out to, and if you want to be an environment artist, reach out to Rogelio, reach out to the folks there that are in the leadership position, but also in the senior and middle level positions, right? And you ask them questions about, hey, what it's like to work there, but also, hey, can you review my portfolio? Right? Can you review this work? Tell me what I'm doing. And if they get back to you, right,
Mm-hmm.
with at least some feedback, right,
Mm-hmm.
you better drop everything you're doing, or most of the things you're doing, and you get on that, right? You work off that feedback,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you build upon it. And then when you're done, you go back and say, hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you investing some time in allowing me to grow. What do you think? What happens at that moment is something very magical in most studios, which is that person will most likely get up and go up to their lead and say, we should talk to this person when we have an opening. Why? Because one of the things that this is kind of to further emphasize a point that we made before, we it's we really look for people that are able to work off feedback, people that are able to work with a team, right? And not just be like, oh, I was great, I somehow magically made this amazing work immediately, right? No, that never happens. Nobody's born like that, right? And so being able to work off feedback, being able to work with a team, being able to show demonstrably that you have grown with feedback is essential.
Makes sense, because
And
that's
so
it.
that, go ahead.
I was gonna say
No,
that's
please go
what a
ahead.
production. That's what production is: working off of feedback
Hmm.
and then working with other people, collaboration until the final product is made.
Correct.
But sorry, you continue because I cut you off as well.
No, I was mostly gonna reiterate what I was gonna say, which is yeah, like that is definitely one of the most important things I can tell you, right? Which is demonstrably show that you're somebody that is invested and is able to grow.
Okay, makes sense. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this are they probably they probably hear that and they're afraid to reach out to people in the studios, because us as students, we look at anyone in the industry, even at a junior position, as just towering monsters in the sky. It's not too bad, is it? Like, it's generally a nice thing. People generally respond back, or if they have the time, correct?
I have two things to say about that.
Okay.
So first one is yes, these people normally will reach back or will try to reach back,
Mm-hmm.
right? Understand these people are also super busy, right? So if they don't get back to you, touch base with them, and if not, then you reach out to somebody else, right?
Makes sense.
Eventually, one of them will get back to you, right? It is in their best interest to help you
Mm-hmm.
in the long term in this industry because it's a very small industry. Also, understand what that you're going and for understand that in this industry, this our games industry in particular,
Mm-hmm.
eyes wide open because this is one of the hardest things that humans can do right now, right? Being able to get beyond that threshold and be able to become somebody in the industry, right? There's so many of us and so many people are working so hard,
Right.
right, to try to get in there. It definitely is one of the hardest things that we have going on right now as a human as humans, right?
Right.
And so being able to demonstrate, being able to separate yourself from all the other ones is essential.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main ways you can do that is being able to demonstrate that you're someone that's able to work with a team and not only have and also have the technical skills to do well in it, right?
Right.
Once again, I don't normally look for the best person. I look for someone that has proficient skill and is proficient at working with a team. That's it, really.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And for those who may not have exactly what studio they're looking to apply for locked down, would you have any recommendations or advice to give to them?
Aesthetic.
Aesthetic.
I bet, yeah, I bet you already care about what setting you're looking for. Are you looking for stylized? Are you looking for realistic?
Mm-hmm.
Right, somewhere in between, like Overwatch style. Right, that is really what's gonna tell you who you are as a human or as an artist.
Hmm.
Right, And then from there, build off of that and look, okay, who out there is doing this? Right, this person, this person, this person. Do I care about their games? Okay, then let's this person, go. Right?
Yeah.
It's really important for you to understand that you're not always going to get into the studio you want to, or that specific one studio, right? But have a breadth of studios, like a top 10, right, that you're going for, right? That way that you are able to apply.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be really bad for you to apply to Infinity Ward with work that you want to do for Kingdom Hearts, right?
Right.
Just wouldn't work out.
Right. And so, you, going off what you just said and something you said a little while ago, is tailor your portfolio to what studio you're going for. So, to those who might be indecisive, would it be recommended to have multiple portfolios? And with that, multiple resumes and cover letters? Oh, of course, multiple cover letters, but just multiples of each thing they need to apply to a studio? For those who may not be too sure?
That is honestly, dude, I wouldn't recommend that. Right? I wouldn't recommend you having different portfolios, right? I mean, I should definitely, that was a blanket statement, so I definitely have to walk it back a little bit, right? So if you're not sure what you want to do, spend some time to allow yourself to be sure of what you want to do. That should be the first step, right? Yeah, if you have a breadth of work and it's amazing and it's good, right? Yeah, have separate portfolios, right? And tailor them to specific places, right?
Right.
Make sure that you have like 3 to 4 pieces that are really good, right? Versus like 6 or 8 that are just okay, right?
Right.
But kind of to touch upon something that I bet we're going to talk about later. Resumes and cover letters, yes, they need to be definitely 100% tailored, specifically to the job description, right?
Right.
And we can go about this later. I bet you're going to be asking me that question soon. But to go back, yeah, your work you need to know what you want. That way that we are able to believe in you.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. And that brings me to exactly the next question I was going to ask. Resumes and cover letters. How important are they, and what do you recommend artists have in them? Because it's something that we're not told too much, if anything at all, about. It's typically all portfolio, which we understand come first, but there's also multiple other things to turn in when applying for a job.
Correct, right? And so it is portfolio, and somewhere down the small print is going to be resume and then maybe cover letter. And so resume, in truth, understand that these things are the first person that reads them is not the recruiter, or it's not even a human, it's a computer.
Right.
Right? And so what you need to do is tailor your resume to look like the job description, or to like have the keywords of the job description, right? And for it to be as clear as possible. Don't put like little images in there. I mean, I love them, but don't put like images and don't put like weird spacing in them, right? Because what's going to happen is that a very, very rudimentary, old-timey program is going to read all that stuff and input that into a system, right? And then it's going to be like an applicant tracking system, that something like I would use, so like Greenhouse or something, right? And then from there, that will be translated into like a ranking system that I will look at and say, oh, this person could be good, right? So in truth, part of what makes me a recruiter that's worth my value is because I'm able to read through all the stuff that these applicant systems kind of like parse through and be able to determine what actually is good versus not, right?
Right.
And so make your life easier and tailor your resumes to look like a job description, right?
Right.
Yes, you also need to be honest with yourself, right? So if the job description says, hey, you need to have experience in Max Maya and then Substance, right? Then you put that in there, right? But if you don't have any experience in Substance, you might be in for a bad time.
Makes sense.
Right? So definitely grab, have like a template resume and be able to change it around, right? To be able to tailor it to the resume, to the job description, but to also say it in your own words.
Can you
Yes,
elaborate
my
on
experience.
that? Oh, in your experience.
Yeah. So one thing that we definitely understand, and one of the main North Stars for us recruiters or for us people in the industry is the candidate experience, your experience in talking to us, right? And doing an art test is a really stressful and hard thing and takes a while, right?
Right.
And so in truth, we're trying to move into more an environment where we do less art tests, because we want to be able to have a quicker time to hire, right? It's a really recruiting term right now, right? But also have a better kind of like a better feeling for you to come out, right? So we wouldn't want you to like spend all this time doing something rather than be rejected,
Right.
because then there'll be feelings of of rejection or just bitterness,
Right.
right? And so it becomes a harder, and we definitely want to put the work on us where we depend on our artistic eye to determine if that person already has the skills in their resume, so in the portfolio. So yeah, so definitely, but also it depends on you right now. Now you have to put the work forward. If you're given an art test, yeah, those are still happening, right? And those definitely happen more often in the mid level, in the junior level, and the senior levels, right? And so I know Sucker Punch is still doing art tests, right? And so if they give you one, right, they're gonna definitely gonna go like, hey, here's their art test, build this environment, and then we're gonna give you feedback on it. That's how you know you move to the next level. And then from that feedback, right, you work at that feedback, and then you hand it over again.
Much like you're actually working in the studio.
Yep. Yep. One thing that people don't really realize often enough is that, especially early applicants, is that a big part of what we look for is that ability to work in a studio environment and having shipped games, because you already went through that entire process of from 0 to 100, right, of finishing a project with a team, right? And so that is equal as important when we talk about, hey, you have this many years of experience doing this thing.
Makes sense.
Also, I would definitely want to touch upon that subject a little bit, right? When you see on a job description saying someone, yeah, we need 2 years of experience in the game industry, right?
Right.
Or so we need to do it's you need to see it from 2 points of views, right? One is your work needs to be equivalent of someone who's been in the industry for 2 years, right? Right. So that opens up possibilities for you, right? And that allows you to understand that you can apply to these jobs, but also understand that that your ability to work with others and your ability to work within a team environment to solve the problems that will come along, right? The problem solving ability needs to be equivalent of someone that's 2 years.
Right.
Right. And so it's a double-edged sword.
So it's okay. That definitely clears up a lot of the confusion and the fear of the applications with experience requirements, because that's most of them, and that's a lot of what scares students away, especially fresh graduates.
So I have definitely hired people for a mid-level or that would say you need to have 2 years of experience that are like they only have 1 year experience, right? Because their work is is good, or their ability to work with a team and the ability to add to a team is so exceptional that allows it to have bridged that delta or that gap.
That's great to know. Thank you so much. And what would be the top list of things you recommend for students just getting out of college to do? Because you don't have the safety cushion of being a student anymore, but you are also expected to get into these jobs somehow. And not everybody knows the information that you just said. So for someone who's just finished graduated, what do you recommend them?
I'm going to reiterate, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Set yourself up to continue building up your skills after school. In truth, school is really the place where you learn the fundamentals, or where I hope you learn the fundamentals of especially of time management, of discipline for yourself, right? But you're gonna be spending a lot of time afterwards, right? Looking on QBrush or just ZBrush Central and like being like, oh, well, what is this new thing, or what is this, or just learning substance, right? Learning all these new projects, right? Building up your portfolio. And in truth, from my perspective, it normally takes about 2 to 3 years for someone after school to actually get hired. Right? So prepare yourself for that.
2 to 3 years. Got it.
Allow yourself for like, okay, after school, right? I might have to pay some loans back, which would be terrible. I'm still paying my loans, so you know. But also to allow yourself to fall, right, and to get up again, right? But also build the philosophy or the discipline, right, to allow yourself to enjoy to fail. Fail fast and fail often is really the motto.
Got it. Okay, that's great to know. And I remember the question I was going to say now. And this is going to be the last question I ask before I open it up. But they say connections is the thing that takes you the farthest in your job search. It's really the biggest thing that lands you the job. What do you have to say about that? And what do you recommend students to do to build the connections in order so that they can better their chances into getting jobs?
So the connections and your network is, in truth, and sometimes unfortunately, one of the bigger things in this industry for you to build. Right, and that is in itself a great thing and a curse. Right. I'm very happy that you all know each other. All the people that I see behind you, right? And I'm very happy. I'm waving back. And I'm very happy. And I'm very happy that you all believe in each other, right? Because that's really what you're trying to build with a network, right? A group of people that are able to vouch for you and understand who you are and say, hey, I believe in this person, so you should too, right? Imagine all of yourselves as a rungs in a ladder, right? So when someone makes it in, right, it is really you're honest to help the next one get there too, right? And so that is a network, right? So what you can do to build this network, right? That's apart from just people right next to you, right? It will be you reaching out to these people, like as we mentioned before, and asking for them for portfolio reviews, right? Or asking them for the insight, right?
Right.
Especially if you're able to demonstrate that you worked with them, that person would have a very, very positive view on you, right? And then if it's not today, it'll be tomorrow. Right? Maintain, like, once you reach out to someone online, just maintain some of that conversation, right?
Right.
Like, hey, I showed you my portfolio, give me feedback. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Here's what I'm working on now. Or even after you did that, right? Like months later, hey, this is what I'm working on now. I'm really excited. I hope you're well. You don't have to review it, but just or just share information like, hey, I just learned this really cool thing that ZBrush now has folders. What's up? Right? So check it out.
Yeah.
Right? I'm really excited about that too, so you know.
Me too.
And so, like, what do you think, right? Like, just those, you don't have to ask for the world for these people. Just ask for their non-committal conversation, and that really allows you to maintain that structure, right? Yeah, meeting them face to face is nice, right? And I bet we're gonna get into talking about GDC soon, right?
Yes.
But don't expect that is the only way, right? You don't have to be totally type A to get things in this life, right? Just be able to maintain cordial relationships, right? And just ask for people's advice and help others as well. And that's it.
Makes sense. Now, before I ask about GDC, I want to ask, because I try to jam it into the skulls of everyone I encounter, LinkedIn. How important would you say building a LinkedIn profile and using that to expand your network? How important is that?
It is terrible. I'm kidding. I'm going to say that forever. I'm going to say that forever. No. LinkedIn is essential, right? And so I don't know if you exist in truth if you don't have a LinkedIn.
Oh my God.
Right? Most times, right? I mean, fortunately for me, I'm well versed in going to ArtStation and going to Facebook groups, going to Discord, right? And we should talk about that soon. But majority of the time, and most other regular recruiters, right? They don't know who you are at all. If they're not able to link you to an ArtStation, if your ArtStation doesn't have a portfolio site, right? You're a non-person. You're not a reality person, right? And so, yeah. Build that LinkedIn, please. Even if you just fill it in with like a very basic job, right? Not even a description to it. Just do it, please.
Please. Okay, and now I want to transition to GDC, a way to connect with the actual industry itself. What do you have to say about that? And yeah, what are your thoughts, opinions, and advice for people who think about or actually are going to GDC?
If you go to GDC to get a job or think you're going to get a job, you're going to have that time, right? GDC is all about building that network, and being able to have these people have a face to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, show of hands, if you don't mind, who is going to GDC this year? It's fine. And GDC is also really expensive to go to. Yeah, the years that where I had to put it out of my pocket, I was easily spending $1,000, which is not fun.
That's good.
Right, especially hotels. Most of the money went into hotels. That's why.
Makes sense.
So don't feel bad about that. Right? Don't feel bad about not being able to make it to GDC or to any of the Comic Cons or to like PAX or whatever, right? Understand that you're still gonna get what you need from being able to have these really human interactions with these people that you want to emulate, right? These artists that you want to reach out to, and that's fine, and that's really all you need, right? Yeah, seeing these people face to face and letting them see a face to you is great, but if you go to GDC, it's gonna be like this really stressful event. Like let's say you go to the Polycon event, right? Where you're gonna meet all these really cool artists, right? And it's okay, cool, right? You gotta meet them, but you're gonna meet them in like a dark room where they're all just like having a drink in their hand and be like, what are you saying? What? And then you're gonna walk away, right?
Yeah.
So like, so are you gonna pay $1,000 for that? I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
But to my point, which is just be human, right? Don't feel like there's a structure you have to follow, that there are rules to this. Just reach out to these people and very humanly say, hey, I'm trying to get into, and so if you don't mind sharing some of your experience, that'll be really helpful, and I will grow from that, and that's it.
Okay. That's very amazing advice. Thank you so much. I always personally felt bad not going to GDC every year because it's very expensive, and I always thought, if only I could go, I could get a job. But that really, especially coming from the words of somebody who does the hiring themselves, it really means a lot more that it's not as important as we all might think.
Honestly, studios like mine, I'm not trying to speak directly. This is more from my experience. We're putting less effort into GDC itself and more into like the events around it. So that's why you see a bunch of companies not have as many booths at GDC, but have like, come meet us at this bar so we can buy you drinks and stuff, right? Right?
Right.
Because we just want to get to know you in a one-to-one basis, and then that way that we have your information, like social media.
That makes a lot more sense because they always say a lot of the actual hiring doesn't happen on the show floor. It happens at the bars next door at the hotel.
100%.
Awesome. Good to know. Oh no, this is the very last question before I open it up. You work at a AAA studio, and we talked about what it's like to work at a very high tier studio. But for some students or some artists who either can't get to that level of AAA yet or think about working smaller, do you have any advice at all about indie studios?
So you're asking me about advice to getting to indie studios? Okay, so here's where my information is gonna flip just a little bit. So studios like mine really, really need people. I'm sorry, give me one moment. Okay, cool. Oh my God, of course. Sorry, got another one of those emails where internally our world doesn't look as organized as you might think.
It's okay. Your job is so much more important than this.
No, this is actually more important. One of the best advice I ever received about how to be a good human being in this industry is that 50% of your time you devote to your work and 50% of the time you devote to your industry, because the industry is always going to take care of you.
I love that. That's beautiful.
That's a Kenny quote. And so, all right, so back to your question, right? So in an indie, right, understand that you have to definitely be able to know your worth and be able to know that you should not work for free. Even a lot of people will tell you, oh, you should work for exposure, or you should have some experience, right? No, that's cool. It's cool, right? Your portfolio is what speaks for you. But, right, understand that these people might be looking for someone more generalist, right, in their work, right? So if you're able to, yes, please continue to specialize in one specific thing, but understand that you need to be good at or proficient in most others.
Mhm.
And this goes pretty much for even people that work in AAA studios. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that be open to these, right? Understand that they're not going to have the resources or the stability of a big AAA.
Mhm.
Well, in truth, stability in AAA is not great right now anyway. So, um, and and so I used to be at ArenaNet, and so that itself has taught me a couple lessons. Um, so definitely be open, but understand that you should not be working for free. And if you're able to have that mentality when you come in, and be able to understand that you're there to work, yes, and you're there to do your best, but not to be taken advantage of,
Mhm.
then I think you're gonna be able to have a little bit more of a healthy relationship with yourself.
Okay, that's all I've got. I'm gonna open up a Q&A. If anyone wants to ask Mr. Alejandro here a question, please come right up to the shiny microphone.
We'll make it a single file.
Hello.
Hi,
So,
I like your jacket sleeves, by the way. They're pretty cool.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, I guess this is just kind of like this last semester, a lot of my professors have been bashing social media, like putting your art on social media. I've had a couple professors say putting your art on Twitter and Instagram is like a waste of time. So, in your experience, do you find artists that way, or do you think there's any like value in putting your art out there and creating like a following or a base?
Um, so one of the main things of art is to put your work out there. So I am going to go against the saying of your professors, unfortunately, which is yes, put your stuff out there so it can be seen and judged, right? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we'll be judged by like people that have no idea what they're talking about, but it's really all about getting your work out there and you becoming a visible person,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It goes back to that whole thing about LinkedIn, right? If you're not on LinkedIn, most recruiters don't even know you exist, right? And so same to you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Definitely put your work in places that will help you, like Facebook. There's some groups like 10,000 hours, like something like that, right? Like even though 10,000 hours is kind of weird right now, but Discord groups. Just be seen by the people that need to see you,
Okay.
and in the long term, not just like I need to get a job tomorrow term.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I also thought, but I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm under my professor.
You can say I said it.
Okay. Cool. All right. Cool. That's my question. So I will
Okay.
move this away. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have two questions. I kind of wanted to know, like for people who like live out of state and like because like we're in Virginia, so like if there's like a place that you want to work at that's like in California or like anywhere around there, like how much do you take into consideration like somebody who lives like out of state or lives like across country? Like is that like how much does it like matter?
So it matters to me, but it mattered differently to Alejandro in the past, right? Okay, joking aside, it matters differently for different studios, right? So for someone like me, if we find talent that is really good, we will fly you and we will pretty much just move you with like white gloves and like move your desk ourselves, right? It's gonna be great. It's actually really nice, right? But most studios or some studios, right, do have some money and some don't, right? So if you, for example, you pick a contract position, they will not move you most of the time. Actually, almost all the time. You have to like ask for it, and then they're gonna be like, "What?" So being local to the job does help, unfortunately, but also be good enough for you to say, "Yeah, let's work together, and we can make something happen," right? I definitely want to leave this in a better note, which is you're away, right? But that doesn't mean that it should hinder you, right? you should not treat it as this is something that's gonna be holding you back, right? Allow these people to talk to you, and then from there you'll figure it out with the recruiter or with the team. Because everybody's case is different.
Okay. And I guess my next question is also like how important is it that we have like internships and that we've had like experience like with different companies if we have the chance like do you like specifically look at that like, oh, they've worked as like an internship at like Cartoon Network or like something like that? I guess I just want to know like the importance of it.
So really, as I kind of to go back to the point I was making before, which is if I look at an internship, if I look at those things, it's really more about your experience working with a team and being able to solve the problems that come along the development process than just you had an internship because you had an internship, right? That's really what I'm looking for you to get from an internship. So having an internal group where you make a game, right, and you all build a team and you'll try to like make a game out of that together, that in itself is an experience that I'm looking for, right? Sure, an internship with a proper company is nice. I hope they pay you. They should, right? And so, and also understand that my perspective, if when you say they have to come from a specific place, where my mind is at is that I'm hoping that you're currently solving the same problems that you will solve in my studio. Like for example, if you're at an internship at ID, be like, whoa, cool, right? You can definitely understand what I'm talking about when I talk to you about some weird level design that all has to be equal when it comes to my multiplayer maps, right? Because you've done the same thing, right? I hope I didn't lose that one.
You said you never didn't lose it.
No, you didn't.
Cool. So internships are nice, right? But also respect yourself, right? Make sure that you're able to support yourself through these internships if they're and I hope they're paid. They're helpful. Don't expect a job out of them, but at the same time, understand what I'm looking for is that experience to work with a team, and also and it's for you to demonstrably show that your art's good. Now, do I put a priority on either one? Yes, I will put a priority on you being good at your work than having an internship. Right? I rarely. I mean, that is a good thing to look for, but that is not like the decision maker for me.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's all.
Of course. I finally get to read what your shirt says. What is that?
Might not even be able to read it still. Let's see here.
RHA.
Yeah, Resident Hall Association, but I got this shirt from a really weird situation, so I had nothing to do with Resident Hall Association being whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Those are my favorite. Well, what is your question?
So I have two questions, if that's okay with you, but I doubt that it isn't. Let's see here. My first question for you is, what is the best way to show that you can work with a team? Like, how do you relay that to the people who are recruiting?
True, right? Which is hard. I would normally say when you're talking about that in a resume, when you talk about yourself in a resume, and this is really a point I should have made before, is to speak about results that you were able to achieve with a team, right? So, for example, right, you were with a team and then you handled all props, right? You would say handle props or and this is just like a basic example. Handle props while on this project and achieved. I was able to meet quality bar for all assets, right? Or was able to meet and exceed quality bar for all assets within deadlines, right? What does that mean? That you were able to in a very high level, you're telling me that you were able to take an input, that you were able to complete the tasks on time, and also you were able to meet quality bar, right? Now, if that is too cryptic, right? Definitely just go by being able to show quality work, right? Us people that have done art for a while, we can tell what good work looks like, and we can tell what it takes to get to that quality bar, right? And normally that takes time. And normally it takes time with you going back and forth, right? So what will happen, and what the moment you really get to answer this question is during an interview and not in your portfolio, right? Because in your portfolio, we're gonna see amazing work, great, yeah. But when we talk to you about it, we're gonna ask you, okay, how do you get here? And that's when you're gonna say, okay, I received feedback, I went back over it, I was able to research this whenever I went into problems, and this is how I got here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
Of course. What is the second question?
Okay, so the second question actually kind of has to do with the first one, the first one's answer. But so dealing with that, going back to rendering. I know a lot of people say rendering, but what does a well-rendered picture look like to you? Like, what level of quality are you looking for in a well-rendered picture? And then how do you tell what level of rendering you should use to apply for other gaming studios, per se?
Look at the work they're putting out, and level yourself to that.
Okay.
So if, for example, you look at the work that we're putting out, right? Does your work have the same quality as mine? That's the bar. To that point a little bit more, right? Which is I'm sorry, I lost myself because I knew I couldn't stop. Can you please re-ask the question again? I'm sorry again.
The very first question?
The second question you asked me.
Oh, the second question. The first part of the second question. Okay.
Yeah.
So, rendering-wise,
okay, yeah.
What level of rendering should we focus on? And then to add a part to that question, how do we distinguish ourselves also? Because I know that there are stylistic ways of drawing that are still well rendered. So, like, where would you draw the line stylized wise? As long as it's understandable. Like, if you can look at it, understand it, it's gorgeous and it's stylized. Is there a problem that it's stylized? How stylized should it be? Unstylized it should be? Like,
okay, I need to break down what you said, because there's some things that you're hitting at that I think need to be clarified, right? So when you develop an idea for a piece, right, you need to conceptualize it and to be able to have a clear image of what it looks like in your mind in order for you to be able to translate that into a physical image, right, or to an image, right? And so when you ask me, or when you say what kind of rendering this needs to have, you need to be able to, or what kind of quality needs to be, right? You need to already know that in ahead of time and be able to hit that mark, right? So if you're going for a specific quality bar, let's say a 343 quality bar or a Blizzard quality bar, right? Your work needs to be kind of like be held side to side and say, oh, that's okay, that's pretty close, right? Now, when it comes to being able to have that being able to achieve that quality bar, right? It takes time and practice, right? It's not something that you just need to be able to say, oh, I'm gonna set for this today, I'm gonna achieve it, I did it, great, right? It doesn't work like that. Am I hitting your points right now?
I mean, I fully understand it's going to take time to practice and work that out. So I was mainly wanting to know stylization, like, I guess I am being a little bit unclear, and I apologize for that. But you are helping a lot with the way that you answered with the focus on the rendering and how much rendering should be done, because that was one of my main worries.
So once again, like to reiterate a little bit, right? You need to know what the final look needs to look like.
Okay.
And you need to know at the end what it should be, right? And if you, as long as that's clear to you, that's when you know you're finished.
Okay.
With your piece,
okay.
Right. So if you set up to yourself, okay, I'm gonna make a bust today, and it's gonna be as realistic as possible, right? Hossein Diba realistic, right? Then you already know what your quality bar is gonna be, right? And what it needs to look like. Oh, and I'm gonna do a bust, and it needs to look very Overwatchy, right? Like another character Overwatch. well, you already know what the quality, you already know what the rendering limits are going to be, right? Where you're going to go. You can't push it too realistic. You can't push it too stylized, right? It needs to be somewhere, right? And so that really needs to be where your head needs to be at, and not question yourself, is it finished or not. In truth, when you develop art, 80% of the time that you spend doing it is in your thought process about what is it going to look like when it's done, what story does it need to tell, and what it needs to be, right? The rest just needs to be you executing. It's almost like a mindless execution. Like you're just following steps that you have in your head. If you're spending time working on your piece while you're making it, you're gonna have a bad time. As in, like, developing the idea of your piece.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
And also, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I
Any
mean,
of you, right? If you have any questions after this, right, and if you have the need to have your work critiqued, please reach out. I'll be more than glad to do so. That's it. Thank
I
you.
will probably take you up on that. Thank you.
Please do.
Okay, I'm going to pass off to the next person now. Thank you so much, by the way.
Of course.
Hello.
Hi there.
So my question is a bit specific. I want to be an environment artist for video games, and having talked with some of my professors this semester, a lot of them are like really grilling me on make sure you have really good assets, put a lot of good assets in your portfolio. Is that, can you say that that's like what you look for?
I want you to please repeat that question, because I need to definitely understand it again.
That when applying for an environment art position in a company, that a portfolio should be comprised of a lot of assets as well as like full environments.
So I wanted to show you an artist, right? And whenever you have time, right? I want you to look at a person by the name of Scott Homer, right?
Okay.
And this person, Scott Homer, is definitely one of my favorite ones ever. And what this person did is that they actually did a very small diorama for their art station, right? And that's really the philosophy you need to be looking at for your own work, right? Actually, the piece I'm referring to specifically is called Stately Home Diorama Low Poly, right? Mm-hmm. What Scott Homer did was this person took a very small piece of a house, of an environment, and polished it all the way to completion. Right? Mm-hmm. What does that mean to me, right? Because you're gonna be, I would rather for you to spend all of your time polishing something that you can finish, because what's gonna happen is that someone like me is gonna hire you and say, we're gonna pay you 100K, we're gonna pay you 80K, right? To do that for an entire house, right? So you need to demonstrate to me and to my hiring managers that you're able to finish things. Okay. If you spend all your time spreading yourself too thin, making a ton of little assets, and making a ton of big environments, right? You're not going to be able to get to that point for years, maybe a while, right? And so focus on small things, focus on things that you can handle, that you know yourself you can handle, and then polish them to the end. And then that's when you're going to convince someone like me, say, we're going to pay you money to do that for forever.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And to like build a little, sorry to, I see you walk away. You do not need to have 10 pieces. Have 3 really well-polished pieces, right? It's not really a numbers game. It's a game to show that you're able to do good work.
Okay. Cool. Thank
Cool.
you very much.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so I have 2 questions.
Okay.
First is, how much content do studios want to see? So you just said that they want to see 3 really good pieces versus 10 really small assets, but how much content in total do you think they want to see?
So one thing I want to get across is that, and for you to understand that it is not a numbers game. There's not a specific threshold that you need to meet for me to say, oh yeah, this person's going to get hired today, right? It's more the work quality that you show. It's really when I speak to you. Speaks for you. I have hired people that have only had 1 piece in their portfolio, and it was polished and finished, right? But I have also hired people that have had 20, 30 pieces in their portfolio, right? And some of them were not finished, but they showed the promise, right? But in truth, what I care about, especially someone in your level, right, is pieces that are polished and finished that demonstrate your best ability, right? So if that is 2, then it's 2. If it's 8, it's 8. But I would definitely recommend for you to err on the side of smaller. That way that you give a very clear kind of definition on what you're able to do. Because I don't want to be seeing the pieces from like when you first started, right? Because then it's seeing growth is nice and all, but I need to see what you can do.
My second question is it a good idea to start with a 3D job you may not be good at and work to a 2D position in the future? So say I'm a character, I enter the industry as a character modeler, but I really want to be a character designer for like visual development. Is that a good idea?
It's harsh. So I understand that it's really nice. It's really important to get out your foot in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to reiterate something I said before, which is it's someone will always pay you a little bit more to do the thing you don't want to do, meaning that yes, you get in that 3D art position, right? And you spend like 5 years doing that, right? Hoping that you get into the 2D art character development role, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be super hard for anyone to trust you in this one. It's going to be super hard for you to transition, like really hard. And not more now than ever because now you have bills to pay, right? And you have to do things, right?
Yeah.
And then for you to take that pay cut after now you have an apartment on your head,
Mm-hmm.
that's it's kind of rough, right?
Yeah.
And so, especially if you move to San Francisco or something, right? And so you need to position yourself for the thing you want to do from the very beginning. And if you're able to get there from the door, great, right? That's important. That's really good, right? But understand that if you tell me that during your interview with me, that's gonna be a red flag for me.
Ooh.
Does that make sense to all of you, right? If you come at my interview and saying, hey, and I think the Laikai recruiter said something like this too, right? Which is, you're interviewing right now face to face for a 3D art position, right? 3D character position, and you tell me, oh yeah, my really my aspirations are gonna be that I'm gonna eventually want to move to 2D. I'm gonna be like, cool, thank you for your time. I hope you have a good life. Bye. I'm joking aside, right? It's gonna be that studios like mine we want to invest in you to grow into the thing that we hope that you want to be, right? And if you're not able to do that clearly and directly, then in truth we're gonna be wasting both our times. And so, if you want to be 2D character development, then you do that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to eventually be a 3D artist, right? And if, for example, you're in that interview, right, situation again, right?
Mm-hmm.
The correct thing for you to say would be, yes, I want to do 3D art. This is really what I want to do, right? And I also have this experience because I also have a love for this, which makes me a much stronger candidate,
Mm-hmm.
right? You being able to understand how to develop characters as a 3D artist is incredible. Like the design of it is super important for someone like me, right? Because then we're able to give you more responsibility. Then we're able to like lean on you and say, what are your thoughts on this, right? To trust you, right? But seriously, like you should definitely angle yourself for the thing you want to do and not to go for the foot in the door approach because that's going to hurt you in the long term,
Mm-hmm.
even if you get that job.
Yeah.
I know that makes your life a little bit harder.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was just making sure because I wasn't going to go into 3D. So I just was kind of like asking for everybody if they did or didn't have that question. But it's a nice question to ask. So thank you.
Of course.
Okay, my question. Hi. My question is going to be a bit more general. Do you just have any resources? I know that you talked about Feng Shui, and I'm like a big fan of their podcasts and YouTube and stuff like that. I was just wondering if you had anything that you think would benefit us that you don't think that a lot of students know about in general.
I have a lot of that, honestly. Definitely what I should do is send it to you separately or send it to your group, right? And some of the stuff that I have, Before anything, I would seriously recommend Discord groups, Facebook groups, and just forums in general, like Polycount. I'm just a big fan of it still. Um, but like Zebra Central. Also, really, really, really dive deep into like design and art talks, right? There's several channels on YouTube where you can just sit down and listen to a bunch of these really amazing artists just talk about how they went about their work, right? I mean, Ahmed Elduri, no friend, like he still has some really cool stuff, right? Ben Mauro has some really awesome stuff, right? I mean, everybody knows Ben Mauro. Um, let's see, Danny Mac 3D has some amazing, amazing work, right? That you can just follow, right? His shape stuff is amazing, right? Flip Normals is a great channel, but also like even High Fun and Jay Hill, like I love that dude's work. Um, but also like there's Twitch, right? There's a lot of really awesome streamers, right? That are artists that just sit down. I'm gonna make some work today, right? Have you ever heard of an artist by the name of Kristen Perry? She is amazing, right? It's just being able to fill your life with how these people go about their work. That way that you're able to build off of that, right? And I'm going to tell you about a cheesy study that happened before, but it really hits home of what makes a good artist, which is some years ago, right? Some scientists were studying, okay, about the proficiency of just being able to think about your work and how that makes you better at what you do, right? And so they grabbed a bunch of basketball players, right? Or just people that like basketball, right? And they said, okay, you're gonna spend 30 minutes shooting hoops, right, and see how good you get. And then they put another group saying, okay, you're just gonna sit there and think about how you're gonna shoot the hoop into the or like shoot the ball into the hoop, right? Just think about it, right, over and over and over again, right? And the difference of performance was very small. Meaning that if you by imagining yourself and you by going over the strategies and you by going over the process of doing your art in your mind and keeping yourself in that world will make you a better artist in the long term than just doing this as like something you do like once you get home or something, right? So please, there's several resources I will definitely be more than glad to share with you. But just fill your life with these things. Watch Feng Su's videos, right? Study more about it. Study more about anatomy, right? And find those resources, right? It's more about problem solving, right? So whatever problem you're having today about what you're doing with your concept work or your 3D work, find people that are doing that and just continue digging deep into that hole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Of course.
Is that all? Anyone else?
It's okay if I keep asking questions. Okay. So earlier, apparently, I wasn't very clear. What is the best way that I can learn better communication skills so that I can communicate my ideas and thoughts to people who work with me clearly?
Mm-hmm. Practice with others, right? Practice with others around you, right? This is going to be a long-term process, right? So when every time you talk about your work or every time you can say, hey, can I, one of your friends, right? You ask for a friend to your right hand, say, hey, can I talk to you about what I'm doing right now? That way I can practice it, right? And then you're able to clearly describe how you got from point A to point to all the way to completion in every step, right? So for example, if you're an environment artist or let's even better yet, right? A character artist, right? All right, so first I made the base mesh, right? And then I started working with the bigger shapes. And then I started working with, but I also started working, making sure the silhouette was right from the concept. And then from there, you just keep on going on and on and on and on, right? Out to texturing, to like high poly, how do you bring it back to low poly, all the way to finish, right? Because in truth, that's exactly the question the art director is going to ask you when you come in for an in-house interview.
Okay.
And the clearer and the more succinct you are. Succinct is a word where you means that you're clear about things without going too deep into something, right? Just like super clear, super like translational, right? As long as you're able to do that, then you're fine.
Okay, and you'd probably, I'd guess, recommend watching YouTubers who also talk about this type of thing, watching their process and like observing that to kind of see, yeah. So probably, I would guess, trying to create a very clear, easy to understand process that other people can work along with and kind of if you're on step 2 of your regular process, everyone knows you're on step 2, and then they can come in, communicate with you, tell you, hey, you're on step 2. I'd really like if you try this, maybe communicate with people throughout each step, or should you focus on, I'm sorry if I'm going a bit.
No. I can really tell you're a really inquisitive and I would say intelligent person because you like to go deep into things, right? And so don't think of it as like there's a step to step for you to succeed, or don't think that there's rules for you to like have to follow, right? You're gonna fail, right?
Okay.
You don't have to like kind of like project this thing into bigger problems. All you have to do is be clear with yourself and be clear the way you communicate with others about how you go about it. And if you feel that is the best way to do it, then you go for it. But understand that you don't have to. All you have to do is just clear with yourself.
Okay, so there's no rules. There's just focusing on making sure that everyone who you're working with understands you, and you also understand yourself, and you know your process. Correct.
Right, because the process will change along the way too.
Okay. And then this is an unrelated question, but I've also been quite interested in comic book art as well. Is that going to be a red flag for any people who might be recruiting for a concept art job?
No. And so that is good, right? Here's the thing, right? Everything that you add makes you better. But the thing is this, you need to focus yourself on something. So, as I mentioned to your friend before you, which is, which is like, you like to do character design work, right? But you're applying for 3D art, right? Don't make that the main selling point, right? You say that during the interview, saying, hey, I also have experience in this because I really like to broaden my skill and be able to learn from other aspects, right? But when you show me a portfolio, right, it's gonna be concept work that relates to my work, right?
What if it was?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I have a bad issue with interrupting.
Me too.
Okay, so if I were to come into an interview and I were to say something along the lines of course, with other things added on once I get my interviewing skills like polished, but if I were to come into an interview and I were to say something like, I have designed an entire world from scratch, all of the backstories to these characters, and designed these characters based off of these backstories, and then I showed you something that I believed was well polished and had like a bunch of critique from other people as well, and somehow communicated this, would this be something that was a positive?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then working off of that as well, this is something that I fear as well, because all my life until very recently, I've been hyper focused on comic book art. And for the future, I do plan on completely figuring this out, but I have two paths: either completely focusing on comic books or becoming concept designer and doing comic books on the side. But how would you recommend going about deciding on something like this for an artist? Or would it be a negative for someone to communicate that they also want to do that on the side? Would that be seen as something negative, or would the fact that they're practicing this on the side be seen as something positive? Because I'd be doing 3D artwork for the backgrounds on the comic books, character design, concept design, environment design for all of these parts. So I wouldn't really know if it'd be a positive or negative.
So before anything, I would definitely want to say something cheesy, which is that you have to sacrifice yourself to the dream that you want to follow, right? So, but also if you want to get one of these jobs that you're talking about, right, you need to be able to explain yourself clearly that you're there for that job, right? And because you love this so much, you will also do this on the side, or you also plan to do this on the side, but you're here for this job.
Of course.
You understand? And you're here to and you're there to use those skills to make yourself better at the job you're applying for. Makes sense?
Okay. Yeah. I think I need to go through a thought process to figure out which of those paths is best for me. But thank you so much for helping me come to a clearer understanding of how that will help or negate that situation.
Every job makes you everything makes you a stronger candidate It's more about how you present yourself, and it's more about how you're able to lead the hiring managers with the expectation that you are going to be devoted to what they're hiring you for, right? Most
Yeah.
of the times, also these people don't know you the way you know yourself or your friends do, right? So you have to be very clear that you're there for this job, and you're there to be good at what this is, and you have all these other things that you know, right, which will make you a better artist.
Okay. I've also been kind of interested. This is completely unrelated. When going into an interview, I've come across two different ways of thinking, and I'm just wondering which one's more important to you, since you are someone who'd probably be doing something important like this. Would it be more you want to show your personality and be slightly more informal, but still, make sure that you come off as professional, and also maybe get into a conversation? Or would it be better to focus on making sure that you come off as very professional and that you're very focused on exactly that interview? So, would it be better to go off topic if the interviewer ends up asking you a question, you end up in a conversation with them and personally connected? Or would it be better to focus on showing that you're extremely professional?
So there's several layers to this, but the main answer is going to be that you need to be able to be human around them, right? You need to be able to be relatable, right? If you're extremely professional, that is definitely a mask you're putting on, because that's not really you, right? Understand that the philosophy you should have for yourself in true for life is that you need to be yourself. You need to be yourself so hard that you give people no choice but to love you. Understand? And so if you come into an interview and you're super well dressed, and you're super concise, this is the way I am, and this is how I'm gonna handle this, and this is it. Thank you for your time, right? We're gonna be seeing that's not a human. That's just a robot, right? And we don't want to work with robots. We don't want to work with that, right? Although robots are cool, but to the point, really, that most studios' culture fit is all about how they're able to work with you and how they're able to relate with you and how they're able to banter with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna hire the person that you are, right? And so go into those interviews being yourself. And if they don't want to hire you because of who you are, then too bad for them, because then in truth it's on them, right? You're going into these interviews to interview them as well, right? If I can relate, I have also been in interviews, right? Myself interviewing for my own job, right? Where I was able to relate with them, and I definitely did not definitely did not match the studio culture or the way of being people were there. And in truth, it was a better decision that we did not end up working together, right? Because imagine you working in an environment where you would just be an outcast always, right? Not your ideas not being respected because you don't match the clique that's going on there, right? There are some studios where the culture is really broy, right? And that's not really a positive place to be in, right? And so you want to be at a place that is able to accept you for who you are.
Okay. And actually dealing with acceptance, I know that this might be a bit of a deep question, but how would you go about LGBT issues? This is I'll count this as very off topic, but should you disclose being LGBT? Would you take the safe route and assume that they'll probably accept you, but it's not something you should focus on? Or do you think it's something that's important to disclose? Maybe it might even be a positive because they're trying to reach out to the community or something along those lines. What would be a good way of going about that?
So that's a good question, really important question, right? Understand that you get to disclose in the beginning, right? Also understand that we're not that, yes, studios like mine and everybody else we have an incentive, or we also have an interest in increasing diversity and making our studios more inclusive. And me personally, that is a big mission of mine, right? But I also understand that you are being hired as a human, and you're not being hired because of the decisions you make, right? And so you don't have to go to every interview, right? And the second thing you say is, hey, I'm bi, or hey, I'm queer, right? It's more about there's very much like with feminism, right? You don't have to be defined by your gender. You have to be defined by who you are as a human,
Yes.
right?
I can
And
agree with
so
that, yeah.
and so the idea is that yes, when you talk to these folks, right, just make men talk like you would normally, right? And then these things are shared beforehand, and these things you don't need to be judged for them. So you don't feel like you have to bring them up. And if they come up, then you say it as you normally would say it. Don't feel like this is something that should be an issue anymore to talk about. And if it's an issue, and if it's an issue for the studio, that should be a red flag for you.
Okay, yeah, that would be a red flag for me, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
be
just
like,
wanted to check.
Sorry. Yeah, but that makes sense for you?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, me and I could probably sit here and ask questions for hours, but at the moment, I have
If you have my
asked.
information, you can definitely continue asking. If you have my
Yes,
information,
definitely.
you can definitely ask me more questions.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay.
Hi.
My question is that I know that you mentioned we have to show our Polish work, but how about do I need to show my sketches in my portfolio? Because when I work with a client or a team, I need to show like 3 to 4 variation sketches, and so I was wondering if it's important to show it, like some of your process in your portfolio.
So I would recommend for you, this is from my perspective, right? So other art directors might have a different point of view on this, right? So understand that you're talking to me about this. I would recommend for you to have a separate section for that. Because I'm hiring you as a person that's able to understand what a complete work looks like. And if you want to have sketches or unfinished work, you have that in a different folder, like an ArtStation, right? Or a different place on your site. I just hope you use ArtStation. That'll be the best. Right? That's all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course.
Is that it? Any more? Okay. I'm going to close this off with 3 final questions, and then we'll leave you to the rest of your day. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions. This is so educational. My first question would be, you said to reach out to you if we have any more things to inquire about. How do we do that? Just if you could list your, like through Twitter, through social media, do you have an email that we can reach out to?
So you have my LinkedIn, right? I am on ArtStation. I'm also on an email that I can share with you.
Okay.
Cool. But yes, please reach out to any of those. I'll be more than glad to do so.
Great. My second one was to ask about you as an artist. If you had a website that we could visit to check out a lot of your work, because on your LinkedIn, when we initially made contact, I only saw that you were a recruiter, but I'd love to see, and I'm sure a lot of other people here watching would love to see what you yourself could do. So do you have a website that you can give us?
What I can do is share with you this work separately. For me, I try to keep those two separate. That way when people talk to me about my work, or sorry, about my recruitment, they don't think I am there for another reason.
I see.
And so whenever, this is more for me as a career thing, where like, and very much like the way I was talking to you, right? I need to demonstrate my commitment to recruitment, and so for me to market my website would be sometimes shooting myself in the foot.
I see.
But I definitely need to change that. So I will. So asking for them, I'll share them with you, and also get on making a website.
Got it. Thank you. And the final question of the night is, what are your personal dreams and hopes and aspirations for the future? We've asked you a lot about jobs, and you've asked us some questions, but let's get to know you a little bit. What are you hoping to accomplish?
That's an adorable question. Thank you for asking it. And so my hopes, in truth, let me tell you about this thing. For me, my philosophy in helping others is that it's more about being able to help them or elevate them to understand what good looks like, and then from there to grab passion from that to hold themselves close, to hold themselves dear during the hard times, right? Many of you will be facing some hard times. You're at that point in your careers where you have to work really hard and like just spend just hours and hours, like just months and months and months of your work, right? Just to like be seen and just for you to like even meet the quality bar that we're like the crazy high quality bar we're meeting, right? And so for me, in truth, my hopes for the future is that our studios are able to be more empathetic to your situation, that we're able to have more people power when it comes to coming together and being able to determine what a good industry looks like, than just being cogs in a machine, right? I am alluding to things that I'm not going to mention online, and so, but also my hopes for me personally as a person is to become eventually a recruiter that is able to build a culture that is able to represent all those things, to be inclusive, and to be accepting of others, and to be stronger because of it. And that I hope that our entire industry continues to follow this path. And so, and I hope you all have that in your hearts, because you are the change that needs to happen. Kind of riffing off counties.
That is a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. And with that, let's call it an interview. Thank you so much, Alejandro, for every word you've said, every second you spent, and everything you've shared with us. It's been immensely helpful, more helpful than most of our classes, honestly. So, yeah, from the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you so much.
On top of this, thank you all for having me. It is an honor for me actually. But do not hesitate to reach out, please. I know that it takes time. I know it takes courage to reach out to others, but also to people like me. And so just see me as a person that you can just reach out to, bounce ideas off, and just for whatever reason, just ask me the cheesy questions. I'll be more than glad to answer. And send me your work. I'll be more than glad to review it.
Thank you.
Let's make this conversation ongoing, and not just ends right now.
I love that idea so much. Thank you so much. And with that, we're gonna leave you to the rest of your day, because you have many more hours in the day than we do. So,
well, have fun. That's all you're in the future.
That's right. Okay, so we will say goodbye, and hope you have a good rest of your day and rest of every other time.
For all of you as well. Good luck.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.